The shidduch had been standing on the other side of the wall the entire time. Nothing was missing, and nothing needed to be added.
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rebbe Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Uvracha. As we are starting Parshas Devarim, the whole Sefer Devarim, I would like to share with you a concept that is hidden and is brought out by the Nesivos Shalom in this Parsha, and we'll try to bring it out also with a mashal, a parable, and a Geshmak story. Mishnah Torah, our Parsha, Parshas Devarim, is actually also known as Mishnah Torah, which is the review of what happened to Klal Yisrael during the Midbar years. This Sefer has many of our foundations, such as the idea of the love of Hashem, Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, fear of Hashem, Lalechet b'drachav, walking in His ways, and cleaving to Him, etc. So we see that there's very, very, very basic and important fundamental foundations. Perhaps what screams out is the second Parsha, not our Parsha, but Parshas Vayeschanan, where over there perhaps is even the heart of the whole Sefer, because over there we have Aseres HaDibros, the Ten Commandments, we have the famous pasuk of Shema, and we also have the idea of Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. It's brought down by the Sfarim HaKadoshim that the mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs together, are actually also a preparation for reaching the very important level, a high level of Avas Hashem, the love of Hashem, which is why only now this idea, this mitzvah of Avas Hashem is brought down. After we passed Bereshis, Shmois, Veikra, Bamidbar, now we are ready to reach the level of Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. So the main question I want to share with you is what the Nesivos Shalom says, Mamish at his first piece, in his first piece on Devarim. Would it not make more sense to start the Sefer with the idea of Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha? Why wait to the second Parsha, Vayeschanan? In fact, a different way of asking the same question is, why are we starting the Sefer that has so many foundations in it? Foundations of Yiddishkeit. Why are we starting, and why is the opening content about Toichacha, rebuke, walking through all the sins, the Averos of Klal Yisrael during the Midbar? And why is that what the Sefer is starting with? And the answer is something very important in the spiritual DNA of the world that Hashem created. And that is the concept called Sur Mera Ve'aseh Tov. A person first has to fight his evil side, get rid of the impurities he has on him, clinging to him, and then do good. As the Pasuk in Tehillim says, the idea is that in order for you to reach high levels, a person first has to clear the impurities, the bad side that is clinging on to him. This manifests itself in many ways. For example, we know the famous Pasuk in Tehillim that a lot of us say first thing in the morning, Reishis Chochma Iras Hashem, meaning the epitome, the first thing that a person has to do is work on his fear of Hashem, which will clear the ground, get rid. When you have a fear of Hashem, you're fearing of doing sins, and through that, the light of Torah can affect you. The Zohar in the Hakdama says it in Furish. He literally says, we are first commanded to perform Iras Hashem, have a fear of Hashem, and that will ensure we don't do bad things, and only then we can raise ourselves to the level of Avas Hashem. Because if you don't do that, and you don't have any fear, you continue to do sins, and you try to learn Torah and get to a higher level, it's similar to a person going to the mikveh, immersing himself in pure water, trying to go through the purification process, where he's the whole time is holding a worm in his hand, a sheretz. That's not going to help. The mikveh won't do its work, as the Gemara in Tainis says. That is also why HaKadosh Baruch Hu set the mood in Har Sinai when they got the Torah, that it was with fear. There was fear involved there, because it had to be that way, because we had to get rid of all the sins that were clinging to us, and sometimes we need fear to do that. The Dubner Magid brings an unbelievable mashal for this concept. There was once a poor man, a peasant. He saved money for years because he really wanted to buy a suit. Every day when he walked back home, he went by a store that through the window, he saw this beautiful suit he really wanted to have, but it took him years to save money. Finally, he gets the courage, he has the money in his pocket. He goes into the store and asks the person over there, the main tailor, please, I want a suit like that. Can you get me the right size? The guy says, what, you can afford this thing? He says, yeah, I've been saving for years. Here's the money. He goes, okay, this is your size. He said, are you sure? Yeah, this is your size. Go try it on and let's see how it looks. So he tries it on and he barely can get it on him. It's so tight. And he gets upset. You're the top tailor here? This is what you're giving me? It doesn't fit me at all. So the tailor says, fool, of course it's not going to fit you. It can't fit you. You're still wearing your old rags. Take your rags off and then it will fit you. The Dubner Maggid says, this is the mashal. The nimshal is that we know the Torah is like a garment for every Jew. It contains 248 mitzvahs aseh, positive commandments, just like we have 248 limbs. And it contains also 365 mitzvahs lo taseh, which is parallel to the 365 gidim, sinews. The Torah is a garment cut to shape a yid, but it will not fit us if we're connected to the rags. We have to sul first, detach ourselves from all the bad things that are connected to us. And what is the agent by which we can do that? Have fear of Hashem. When you have fear of Hashem, that helps us get to that point. With this concept, we can also answer a question that should be bothering many. On the one hand, the Torah, we know, refines a person and lifts him to a higher level in his midos, in his traits. However, there's also a mefurish chazal in Pirkei Avos that says, Derech Eretz Kadma Torah. It's a prerequisite to work on your midos before you learn Torah. But the Torah is the agent by which it's going to change you to get to a higher level of midot. So what's going on over here? It's a chicken and the egg. It's a catch-22. And the answer is, they're both true at different stages. The most basic level, a prerequisite to be able to learn Torah and to have Torah affect you, is to have this level of Yiras Shamayim. You have to first have a fear, which is the lowest level of Avodas Hashem, but it's still a level, it's a prerequisite. That will ensure you disconnect and you're able to beat your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination that we're all born with. And now, like the poor person that took off his rags, now the suit will fit us. Now the Torah, the Heilige garment, will fit us and we'll be able to refine our level of midot to a higher level. Because we all have Yetzer Lev Adam Ra min Neorav, as the Pasuk says in Bereshis. Nobody starts clean. Everyone is wearing something that has to come off first. This is perhaps also hinted in Devarim as well, as it says, Ma Hashem, in the Sefer Devarim, Ma Hashem shoel mimcha kim li'ira oto. Meaning, first, your first step is to ensure you have that level of Yiras Hashem, fear of Hashem. And then you can continuously move up in the spiritual ladder and reach to that level of clinging to Hashem and Avas Hashem, what we spoke about. So why was the rebuke needed? Now we understand very much why it's needed. Because the rebuke that Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them is a prerequisite for them to be able to reach the levels that are so important, that are brought down later in Sefer Devarim, in Parshas Vayeschanan, which is Avas Hashem, Dveikus in Hashem, to reach the level of living. Enod mivadosh ma Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. But why is Yira the gatekeeper? Why is Yira the agent by which we will be able to disconnect from negative traits? That's because it will make sure that we never fall below a red line. Because not every day is the best day. Sometimes we have harder days that the Yetzer Hara is working overtime. But if we have that fear in front of our eyes, that fear will ensure that we will not stoop to a too low level. This is actually hinted by many Mefarshim In Parshas Shoftim, it says, Shoftim v'shoitrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha. Also in Devarim, in Sefer Devarim, which literally translates to that you'll have to put officers and judges should be placed at all your gates. But it's part of the pasuk is in singular form. B'chol she'arecha, titen lecha. It sounds like it's your own gates. So Chazal teach us, the Mefarshim teach us, that is, this is hinted also to you. Your gates, the way you communicate with the world, your eyes, your mouth, those are your gates. You have to make sure that you have a judge at each gate and an officer to make sure you only do good things with those gates of yours. So the judge is obvious, it's you. But who enforces what the judge says? No, don't say this. The answer is that the enforcer, the officer, is our fear of Hashem, Iras Shammai. Perhaps this also answers why we read Parshas Devarim always on Shabbos Chazon, the Shabbos right before Tisha B'Av. Aside from the other reasons we know, perhaps we can add that this is the Parsha with the rebuke that reminds us we are mourning the Beis HaMikdash because we are the ones that are also responsible because we can rebuild it. The fact that another year has passed and the Beis HaMikdash has not been rebuilt is because of our actions or the lack of our actions. And we have to work on ourselves because we know that everything in the world happens because of Yid, his thoughts, his actions. So let's not forget to try to remember. Sul Mera first. Clear the ruin and then we can together build the Beis HaMikdash. I'd like to end with an unbelievable story that brings out exactly this idea. That a person has to do their ishtadlus to get rid of the bad, and then the good will be able to come and help you upgrade your life in the spiritual sense. This story was told over by Rav Chaim Zayed. A family came over to him after a shir he gave over, and they were saying to him, we really don't know what to do. Our daughter is already getting older, and she's still single. We said Tehillim, we did everything a person can think of. Every school, Kirei Tzadikim, we gave tzedakah. What else can we do? It was exactly during the 3 weeks, and Rav Chaim Zayed thought for a moment and asked them something they didn't really expect. He said, perhaps you're holding a grudge against anyone. Is there someone you are in a fight with? Maybe the right thing to do is to go and ask for forgiveness or to try to make peace between them and you. They thought, and then they remembered, of course, there is someone that we're not on such good terms with, and it's our neighbors, whose porch is right next to us, almost touching our porch. The two families had a big machlokes, whatever it was, it spiraled out of control, and it grew so ugly that on Sukkah's time, they each decided they're going to make their Sukkah smaller to ensure they're not going to be touching each other on the porches that are back to back. So they decided to indeed make shalom. It was awkward, it wasn't easy, but they did it. After that period of time when they made peace with their neighbors, for the very first time after many, many years, their sukkah was bigger and right up against their neighbor's sukkah. On Yom Tov, everyone's in their sukkah singing, and this family overheard the conversation of the other family. The neighbors were saying, we have to find our oldest son a wife. He's already getting older. And it's a bit of a pity because on paper it looks like a good match would be the family that's right next to us. But after the fight we got into, even though we made peace, but it won't be matim, it will be too awkward, too weird. This Reb Chaim Zayed said, when they went to ask him what he thinks they should do, he said, listen, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated that you would hear such a thing, then there's no doubt about it, that you should absolutely go and tell them, maybe we should give it a try. And they did. And you can guess the end of the set. And they ended up being married happily ever after. The shidduch had been standing on the other side of the wall the entire time. Nothing was missing. And nothing needed to be added. There was only something that had to come off first. The machlokes, the argument. That was the rag. That was the impurity that they had to remove. And once they did that, the bracha, the blessing, was able to fit. Have a good Shabbos.
This concludes another episode of The Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Ellie Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.